Hello. I'm so excited because I have someone who I've known for, I guess, a couple of years at this point on for
Yeah.
today's episode. Hello, Isabel Pask. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to see you.
I know. We
Yeah.
finally got together the other week. So Isabel and I went to Chautauqua together, I guess in 2017, right? Was that what it was?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
And we hadn't seen each other in so long
Oh my
because of
God.
COVID. And we
So
finally got
long.
our dogs to meet in the park. It was just like
Yeah. I got my dog
glorious.
over here on the bed. He's
Is he just
chilling. He's part
chilling?
of the podcast. Yeah, he's right there.
There.
Yeah, sweet
There's
bear.
this gorgeous hunk of a stunner.
Yeah. He's
Just
a
like
cutie.
a
He's got a
mush.
big head.
I love it. Walter is sitting behind me on the ground as well. He's just hanging
Oh.
out. Well, tell the listener who you are today so that they know who we're speaking with.
Yeah. Let's see, who am I today? My name is Isabel. A lot of people call me Isa. I use she, her pronouns. I am an actor and a writer and a producer and all of those multi hyphenates. It's been really fun. I'm really excited to talk about it because I think that as the past few years have gone on, have become more comfortable using all of those different hyphenates and not just kind of sticking to one. I think that I started out primarily as an actor and a performer, which is still a huge, huge part of my heart, but kind of have moved into different areas of the arts that all complement each other.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. I live in Brooklyn. I have a very cute dog named Bear who's hanging out here. And I'm looking out at the park right now. I live by the park, which is where we met a little bit ago. And I'm feeling very at peace today. So
I was going to say your energy feels very zen and very
it is. It is not always that way, but I did wake up today and my boyfriend's parents are staying with us actually, which is, fun. They're not here right now, but they are staying with us and we slept down on the couch. I didn't think I was going to sleep that well and I feel great.
Who knew you had the comfiest couch to sleep on?
I don't know. Yeah, no, it was great.
Friends are going to hear this podcast and be like, look, I heard through the grapevine that you have a really comfy couch you slept on. Can I crash?
I love having people stay on our couch. Some of our friends make fun of us because we're like, stay on our couch. It's a futon. And they're like, okay, fine.
Yeah, you twist my arm. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
I'll be right across the street from the park.
Right.
How awful. Well, I'm super excited to jump on in because when we met, we covered a lot of ground about what it is that you're up to in life with your various new hats and the new things. But I think I want to start with this idea of starting. I know that was a conversation that you and I had, and I think it's something that I've also had with many friends in my life, and certainly with a lot of, the people that I coach, younger folks specifically, who are like, I have this idea. Where do I even begin? And I feel like you are somebody who is so good at just starting. And I guess I want to conceptually talk about a start and what that is just generally for you before we talk about maybe specific projects.
Totally. Yeah, I think starting is one of the biggest things about working on your own work. I mean, I know, and I'm sure you do too, so many talented and creative people who are bursting with ideas and are performers, but also have so much potential energy for stories inside of them. And I think the hardest thing for people that I hear a lot is just okay, well, how do I do it?
Right.
And some of that's fear, I think, getting in the way of I'm not really a writer, or I don't really do that, and that's okay. But I think for me, it's you got to just knock that down and say I'm whoever I want to be today. I can call myself whatever I want.
Well, that's such an interesting thing, right? Because it's even just the way you just talked about it, there's these qualifiers that to even get to the doing of the thing, we've already put kind of what's the like a post in the ground, right? Which is like,
Yes.
well, I'm not this, or I don't qualify
Yes.
as this, and therefore, before you even do the thing, how do you get comfortable, or how have you learned to get comfortable with just giving yourself that permission of the quote unquote label to even allow yourself to enter into a new space?
I think it can almost be a sort of fake it till you make it situation. Like, you
Mhm.
just gotta do it. You just gotta call yourself a writer. You just gotta call yourself whatever, you know, whatever your heart is going towards, whatever your brain is going towards, and be able to be like, there is nobody telling me I can't call myself a writer,
Right.
or, I can't, um, obviously there are certain things that have degrees and whatever. Like, I'm not going around being like, I'm a doctor. But
I would hope not.
um in terms of the arts, like, I think we're allowed to claim those different identities, and if you put up blocks before yourself, then it's going to be a lot harder to get
Yeah.
started.
I think it's so
Or
interesting too because, like, and you bring up doctor. I've said this to so many people who are like, "Well, what are you working on?" And they don't mean it in a negative way. It's just this strange implication of asking an artist to, like, qualify and quantify what you're doing, and therefore
absolutely.
that validates you, whereas, like, you wouldn't
Yes.
ask a doctor, like, "What are you working on?" You wouldn't ask a lawyer, "What are you working on?" You assume that you know that they're working.
Right, right, and it's like, people think they can qualify it. Like, yeah, I'm imagining my dad's lawyer. I'm imagining everyone who talks to him being like, "What case are you working on next?" Or like,
Right.
"What client do you have?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What? Why would I care?"
Correct. Also, like,
Um,
you wouldn't necessarily, first of all, you probably wouldn't even be legally allowed to share. So, like,
right.
why, and, same kind of thing with us, like, there's a lot of auditions that would come through, or opportunities that come through that, like, until they become something, A, you don't wanna really talk about it, but also sometimes you can't. Like,
Yeah, totally.
just these weird parameters around it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other way to go about it too is to just be like, "I'm having fun. This is something that excites me, and I don't have to put pressure on it," you know? I mean, some people are more comfortable being like, "I'm a writer. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do it." And some people are more comfortable being like, uh, "I'm just doing this for fun, and then we'll see what happens." I think both are super valid. I think that
Mhm.
for me, getting started is so much about structure. I think you kind of have to learn a little bit what your brain responds to, but I do think that everybody needs a little bit of structure, no
Yeah.
matter how your brain works. And with writing, you're not always going to feel like writing. You're not always going to feel like working on something. Early during the pandemic, a friend and I, um, we would meet up every morning at 10 a.m. and just write for an hour and talk. And I think we didn't really know what we were going to work on or what we were going to do, but we were both like, we need to do something. And even just having that space to explore in every day,
Yeah.
things started to build because you're giving yourself that space. And I think accountability for me is something that is really helpful. Being a part of different writing groups, um, and then in terms of getting started, like with writing specifically, I think there's a couple of ways that I do it, and one of them is at first just kind of pouring out things that you're drawn to or interested in, you know?
Do you do
So
that in, like, a Google Doc?
I do that in a Google Doc. I love Google Docs because my brain likes to keep everything in one place.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'll just start pouring out, okay, like, sisterhood, um, you know, Christianity and religion. That's like a world that I grew up in that was really specific, that I've always wanted to kind of explore some of the stories and trauma and background, and then
Mhm.
kind of riff on that for a while. And then, start pulling out, ideas within it. Like, oh, what if there's a story, about uh two sisters. Okay, I know I want to start with sisterhood. Where are they? What's something else I love? I love backpacking. I love camping. Like, how do I marry these together? And then those are some elements. And then, like, where is my heart and what do I want to explore in terms of what am I saying and what do I want to say?
Mm.
And kind of figuring out how you can mix those together into a loose idea first is how I start. Or it's like I went to Indiana with my boyfriend a couple of years ago, and we were in this crazy little town. We were listening to this podcast. We were staying in this cabin, and my brain just started to swirl around of like, I could make a movie in this cabin. This is a great cabin. It's like a family, friends, but started writing something that all took place in there. So it's like you got to grab a couple of strongholds. For me, like I got to grab a couple of elements, start building that out, start thinking about it for a while, and I just keep adding those thoughts to the Google Doc until eventually I look at it one day and I'm like, okay, now I can move to an outline. And then for me, something that's been really helpful is this book called Save the Cat, which I talked to you a little bit about. You know, some people don't love it because it is it's kind of prescriptive in the way that it lays out movies. But I mean, I think it's an amazing place to start. Your movie doesn't have to exactly look like that outline, but it gives you bones with where to start. And it's very specific of like his philosophy. His name is Blake Snyder. And we studied this a little when I studied screenwriting at school, was that every movie follows this specific outline almost to the page. And so there are like 10 pages of this, and then 10 pages of this, and then 10 pages of this, and then 30 pages of this. And so you kind of, I like put that into another Google Doc, and I look at the whole outline of it. And then I start being like, okay, where can I fill in? Like, this is where the character would start. This is the debate. This is the fun and games. This is the promise of the premise. These are different things. And
are you adding that to the outline before you start like actually writing the piece itself?
Okay. Absolutely. So I basically fill out almost all of that for the movie that I was working on by myself. I did that by myself. For movies that I worked on or scripts that I've worked on with people, we do that together, and we just like talk through like, okay, and then this happens, and then this section would be probably about this, and it can be pretty loose and it can change. And again, I think it's just a starting point. But I start filling all of that out definitely before I start writing anything, and then I feel like I've built myself a map of somewhere to go.
Right.
And so I'm not just diving into the deep end. I have like this place to go. And, you know, people do different outlines. This is a 3-act structure, which most like movies follow. TV tends to be in 5 acts. And so that's a different sort of outline, a different sort of map.
Did you learn the various ones from Save the Cat exclusively, or did you have other places through which you learned, say, the 5-act, 3-act? Where else did you gather your information, or how?
There are a few different things that I like in terms of structure. I say the Cat is a big one in terms of feature. I haven't written as much television. I've worked on one show, but it was a writer's room format. And so we were starting together and then splitting things up. There's a great podcast called Script Notes, which is really wonderful. They have all sorts of different topics, specifically about screenwriting. And so I picked up definitely some stuff there. A lot of it is reading scripts and listening to interviews about them. And then you start kind of, taking classes. I've taken a couple little seminars. And so somehow that TV is 5 acts and movies generally 3-act is in my brain. I don't know which of these places gave it to me. And obviously there's always room to break the rules. I think starting with the rules can be so helpful to understand the form that you're in. And yeah, I love the book On Writing, which is by Stephen King. And that's that's more for fiction, honestly. But I think there are some things, like I have a little quote from that book up on my desktop that are just very inspiring in terms of getting things going as a writer. Script Notes is great. Save the Cat is great. There's this book called Story by Robert McKee that people love. I don't know. I haven't gone as deep into that one. That's like a big guy. Script Notes is great in terms of comedy. If you're writing like jokes and stuff, there's Good One as an amazing podcast that really like goes into the form of jokes. I love starting with structure and form. I think that then that just gives you, once you know what you're playing within, like it's like when you're acting in a play, you get the script and you get the play and you're like, okay, now I can fill it out with my whole being.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I talk about
starting,
that too, which is
yeah,
like when you're, especially if say you have like a monologue or something that you're pulling out of context, you know, it's one thing to think, okay, I'm playing in a playground. It's another thing to think, okay, I'm dealing with the swings. What is every single way that I could slide down, like move on the swings, hold myself in the swings, move the swing, like all you, then you
I
exhaust
love
all
that.
your options in the swing set. So just because you play on the swings doesn't mean you don't have access to the sandbox or the slide. It just means that you get to really, really, really explore all the possibilities in the swings. It's not just sitting on them and going back and forth,
I
you
love
know?
that. That's exactly what it has felt like to me to start writing, is like, okay, I need to learn how to build this playground or how to
Yeah.
build the different structures within here, and then like I can go crazy. And then every draft changes a little bit too. Like
Mm-hmm.
you start moving in different ways from um your original plan. And but in terms of starting, like I gotta have something that grounds me. Otherwise, I'm going to be looking at a page and being like, "What?"
Yeah.
Or looking at my computer. I mean, I'm not like writing scripts on my.
Mm-hmm.
I use Writer. Well, I started using Writer Duet, which is a website where that's free that you can get a few scripts on, and it's an amazing formatting screenwriting tool. Now I use Final Draft, which I bought about a year after I started really working stuff, because I was like,
You're using this. This is an
I'm using
investment. Yeah.
this. I think there's a part of it that I was like, this is the professional standard and I'm going to get this. I'm really a writer. So now I have Final Draft. And there's something about it that felt fun to me. But I think Writer Duet is also a great option. And Writer Duet is cool because you can access it from any browser. So you could work on it wherever. Um, it's like an online platform. And that's actually the platform that I use with my writing partner, Macy, because we are able to both go into the same platform and
Amazing.
edit.
At the
Yeah.
same time, or do you have to do it at different times?
Yeah, we can definitely do it at the same time. We'll work on the same. We have like one document that's like a working document. We have one document we call Street Trash, which is like all of the scenes we've had in the script at some point have
I
been
love that.
cut. We like all put them in this giant, it's like 300 pages now. And so sometimes when we're like, oh my God, remember that scene we wrote with these two characters that didn't work? Like, can we pull a little bit back out of that scene and put it in this? So we
Yeah.
have that document. And then we each have for a while, we each had our own document that we would kind of work on scenes in. And then when they were ready, we'd put them into this working current draft.
I'm excited for at some point you and Macy realize like actually there's so many beautiful gems in this Street Trash document, and then all of a sudden you create this strange, weird
Yeah.
movie that maybe works together and maybe doesn't, of like all these really cool disparate ideas
Totally.
that are actually dope but just didn't belong anywhere else, and so this
That's
is where
so
they
fun.
belong. You're welcome
I
in
love
advance.
that. Yeah, we're like, I feel like there's part of it too. We're like, if we make a TV show, because right now we're writing this feature, and like
Mhm.
we've always, several people when we talk about this idea, they're like, well, that could be a TV show. Because our
Yeah.
problem has always been we have almost too much material because we grew up in this world that we're writing about. It's like filled with our past. When we started writing it, we were like, oh my God, we have way too much material.
That is my next question. I am currently expose myself. I'm currently in the position, we kind of talked about this. I'm currently in the position where I have been keeping a notes doc that at this point is, I've transferred it from my notes app to a Google Doc, and it's a lot of pages, and it's ideas and jokes and like interesting things that I've seen and whatever it is. And I'm looking at this massive document that I need to go through after years of never looking at it and being like,
Mm,
first of all, what was I even saying here? And also like, what is this? Is there any validity to this? Is there anything that I'm still excited about? Organizing it and then trying to see from there what exactly I want to pull out to start working on. When one is somebody perhaps like myself who is an ideas person, and there's a lot of stuff going on in one's brain, and perhaps you're actually quite good at documenting that and keeping a place, how do you decide which idea is the thing that is the now? Again, another starting question, but like if you do have all of the
mhm.
stuff, how do you either A, know which is worth your time, I guess it's maybe just trial and error, but how do you know which is worth your time, or what do you choose? How do you choose? How do you make those decisions?
That's such a good question, because I definitely am a person who is like, "What if there's something better? What if I start this and there's, there's a better idea? We're working on this
Mhm.
film right now, and I still have this fear that jumps into my brain. We're like already moving into production of it, and I'm like, is this the right one to be making?
Right.
Like, should I have done a different idea?" And that's just my brain wanting to try and do everything at once. So yeah, you have this document. I call mine usually a brain dump, which there's
Mhm.
something that feels right about that. I've also heard it referred to as like a garage, where you like take everything, you put it out in the garage.
Oh, I
Some
kind of love
screenwriter,
that.
I love that too. That's probably from a podcast, or you know what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
these
not
things just
mine.
like rogues stick in your brain. You have no idea where they're from.
Yes,
Yeah.
but having I think it might be the Duplass brothers, who are like another great resource, like Mark and
Mhm.
Jay Duplass, who have done a lot of indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
They're another great resource to start. They have kind of like, I think they have a book, and they also have this document that's like how to get started on making a movie when you have no money. And their first feature they made because they had a furniture store they could film in, and like an apartment. And so they made it like these two people that worked at it's called The Puffy Chair. It's a super low budget film, and they basically like, these are what we had, and so this is what we're going to create. But I think that's the garage, where the garage come from. So it's like every time I meet a really cool person or have a really cool experience, it's not even ideas, but it's like, or I hear a really funny joke on the
Yeah, it's
street.
inspiration of some
Yeah, I'm like,
capacity.
oh, I
Mhm.
put that in the garage, and then when I need to go out to the garage and get stuff, I have to go through the garage and grab stuff and bring it back in.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause it feels like for me, I've used brain dumps a lot. Like I've organized brain dumps. I have people in my life who organize brain dumps, and it becomes, I feel like there's maybe it's because dump is now we're like talking about, but dump is more like an action. So it feels like you're doing of the thing, whereas the garage is where like the space, now that I'm
where
talking
it's
this out, but
held.
like where it's held. So
Yeah,
it feels like one is the doing to hold it in the garage. There's something really wonderful about moving my brain from
totally.
the brain dump, which is the activity, to where they then just sit until I need it,
Yeah, I
which I
like that
kinda love.
too. And
Yeah.
garages are like messy, beautiful places. Like when you go through like your parents' garage or something,
Mhm.
you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna find all of these gems.
Where you're like, "Why was I holding on to this, and why is this taking up so much space? Like,
Yes,
why am
yes,
I a hoarder?"
exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that, yeah, you gotta go into your garage, maybe you gotta do a little inventory, even just like a skim read, and then be like, what is still sticking out to me right now? And how can I make that? I like character-driven pieces instead of plot-driven pieces. I think that is, personal preference in a way. Like I love movies like Eighth Grade, or Frances Ha, that like are very character driven, really plot driven movies. Like, I don't know, I can't stand action movies. Some people love them, super plot driven.
I'm in the same boat. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
It's fine. They have their place, I suppose.
Yep.
But so you start thinking of characters, and a big thing I do when I'm starting to think about characters is think of people in my life who are incredible. And the people in my life who I love, my friends and my family, are far more complex and interesting than anything my brain is going to be able to just come up with.
Mm.
And so, like, one feature I was working on, like, I had a character that was like loosely based on my best friend, and one that was kind of a mix up of two boyfriends that I'd had. Like, and I think what's really cool is you can have the like, and that helps me find voice, is to, so all
Mhm.
of my characters don't speak the same. So I'm like, okay, how does this person talk? And then I kind of, when I'm writing, I'm like, how am I channeling this person's voice into this? So maybe they have
Yeah.
like the voice of this friend and the background of another friend or someone you love. And obviously you're not trying to like rip people's stories. Like you're
Yeah.
not trying to, exploit them. Or if I were ever to use any personal facts about someone, I would be like, hey, is this cool?
Mhm.
You know, or like, but also you have to take from your life. And so for me, it's a way that I put love into my work and my writing too, is to be like this, one of these scripts is about sisters, and clearly like the voices stem from me and my sister. then they have to evolve and develop into their own people or become strange. So it's like, it
Right.
starts off as their names are Bea and Sophia. Sophia starts off super aligned to me. Bea starts off super aligned to my sister. And then at some point I had to be like, okay, wait, but how are they really different than us? They might kind of speak in the similar, like Bea sounds more like my sister in the way that she speaks and the way that she communicates. And Sophia sounds more like me, but Sophia's not an actress. Like where is her background from? Where does she come into the world the way she does? And how is that similar to my life? But also, how can I piece things together to create a new story? So I'm not just being like, this is my life.
Yeah. Do you have a series of actual questions that you ask while you are working on character development, or is it just as you see how they're beginning to unfold, you then get to be like, okay, this is a part that's feeling icky or stuck, and then just kind of being curious about what's not quote unquote working?
That's a great question. I think that, so the two, I feel like I'm just keep talking about these things, and I should clarify I have two features that I've worked on.
Mhm.
One is this sisterhood movie. It's about two sisters. They go backpacking across the Grand Canyon. And the other is about this evangelical Texas Christian camp. And that's more of a comedy coming of age story. So, and that one I'm working on with my writing partner, Macy. Um, with that one, in terms of character, we used a Google Jamboard, which I don't know if you've ever used one of those. It's like in the same G Suite, it's
Yeah.
like Google Docs, whatever. It's called a Jamboard. It's like free and there. And it's basically like the equivalent of putting up Post-it notes on a
Okay.
wall. And so we would be like, okay, these are our main characters. This is Logan, Courtney, whatever. And then we put like little pictures of people from our own lives they reminded us of underneath. So I'm like, hopefully nobody ever finds that.
Oh no.
And then like little sticky notes of descriptions of like, Macy's are always so funny. It'll be like, I don't know. It'll be like, wears Birkenstocks and like t-shirt tucked into jeans, like main uniform, like just like little qualifiers or
Do you
like.
ever, I'm interrupting you. Have you ever seen how people are starting to take the game Clue and they're inserting different types of people, like hipster people and different types? No, they're not inserting it. They're using the board Clue. And the way that they're asking the questions is like putting modern day twists to it. So it's like, would your person go to a rave and get stoned? Would your person like try to sleep with the teacher? Like, would your person is your person vegan? And like asking all these questions according to the Guess Who. That's what it is. It's not Clue. It's the Guess Who board. And they're like, you put down your
Oh my
the little
God.
pictures of the Guess Who people
I
according
love
to
that.
like colloquialisms rather than like, does your person have red hair?
That's incredible.
I
And I
know.
feel, yeah, that we start kind of making ourselves laugh by putting those little
Hilarious.
specific qualifiers
Yeah.
on.
If only I had known not Clue and Guess Who. I grew up with so many board games. I don't know why my brain went to Clue. It's not Clue. It's
Yeah,
Guess
yeah,
Who.
yeah. That's true. That's
Makes so much more
perfect.
sense. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so that was like a really fun way for us to collaborate on that. Like with this sisterhood movie, I had starting places. Like I probably had just a Google Doc for that of like Bea, Sophia, like just kind of facts about them. Like this is their job, this is where they come from, this is their age. And then there's been times where I felt like they started to get away from me with that movie. I'm like, wait, why are they feeling different? And so I have to be like, this is what they want. I just go in. I don't have as much specific questions, but I do think as an actor, if you're an actor, you can apply any character work you do on a character in acting to that, right? If you have questions you ask yourself about character or a process that you like to work on in terms of text work, you can turn most of that stuff around on character and be like, I get to make that now. So let me just, I think that would be another great way to start. If you didn't want to start with outline structure, like something like Save the Cat, the beat sheet, you could start with, acting questions you normally do for characters and just build all those characters out. And then I think setting, right, like throwing in a place, throwing in a couple qualifiers, like for this Duplass Brothers from the puffy chair, then being like a furniture store is what we have. And then kind of let your brain play connect the dots. It's just fun. It's a puzzle. Like it's been so fulfilling to me as someone who is primarily, or for so long, primarily an actor, to use my brain in this way. And I obviously don't know everything about writing, not even close. Like, I only know how I came to it and what I've done with it and how rewarding it's been. And, you know, there's such a hustle that comes from being an artist. And sometimes it's fun to mix up the hustle. I mean, like, I don't want to do the hustle of acting anymore. That is draining me. That is draining my soul to try and do all the things and meet the casting directors and build up my website and do all of that. It's like, okay, what's the writing hustle and how can I move into the writing hustle and enjoy that hustle? And I'm really enjoying that hustle right now. Whether that's with writing or stand up or, you know, production. I work for these, I'm learning a lot about producing as well, which is a beast entirely different to writing. But yeah, I mean, we all have to, like, kind of as artists do these hard things and work hard and I'm really interested in how we find the joy in that process of working hard and figuring things out. And if I get tired of one particular, I know my brain wants to be an artist, so it's like I can keep, you know, doing auditions, but I can maybe turn back the dial on that, push forward and put it in a different position for a while until I'm like, the writing hustle is draining me. The writing hustle is making me sad about the industry. So let me move into something else and come back to this later.
Well, I think what you're saying is such a wonderful life lesson, really. But, you know, we're taught that like you are this thing and therefore you must pursue this thing. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, right? This multi-hyphenate, you know, multidisciplinary, many hat wearing, however you want to phrase it, right, of oneself. It's like being able to fluctuate and move and migrate between all of these things doesn't take away from your artistry, right? Just because you're not really focusing on your acting as much doesn't take away from the fact that you're a gorgeous actor. Just because you might move to be more in a producer hat doesn't take away from the fact that you also aren't writing. Like, we contain multitudes. And I feel not just within the arts, but just generally as people, right? It's easy to forget that is the complexity of being a human being, that you can be many things at once. And that's actually what makes you, quote unquote, better at all the other things anyway, because you're using parts of yourself.
Yes, everything feeds each other, like, so much. And then you become better at all of the things, hopefully, or you enjoy all the things in different ways. Like I did, you know, I started to do stand-up for the first time a couple of months ago, and it was.
But you got to pause. You got to pause and just tell the story of that, though, because it's absolutely insane.
It is an insane story. Yeah, I was covering for a friend as an assistant for Amy Schumer, which was wild, and she was out of town, and I filled in for a few days, and yeah, I mean, it sounds like weird even when I talk about it. I'm like, that's wild. But we were talking and I was telling her about different projects and she's like, well, you should do stand-up. I was like, I don't do stand-up. And then
But what day was this when you were working for Amy? Let's just be clear.
Like the third day or the second day, and I knew her, maybe second or third day. And then she was like, well, I think you should, you know, open for me tonight at the Comedy Cellar, like do 5 minutes. And I was like, I'm gonna die. And I did it, and it was wild and fun. And you know, I'm still trying to figure out, like, if that's a route if that's a hustle that is going to fuel me. And I don't know yet. I think there's a little bit, I was like, I've been given this opportunity, and so I need to do the comedy thing. I need to try it. And starting to realize, okay, but do I actually get more out of collaborating on, like, telling a story with other people, whether that's film or television or whatever, like, and why do I feel like I have to do this? You know, why do I feel like I have to go to open mics or try this because I've given this opportunity? It's an interesting thing I've been kind of going back and forth with. But like, what I was going to say is that even doing stand-up, that terrifying stand-up, like the next audition I had, I was 10 times more confident all of a sudden. I was like, I walked in being like, holy shit, I have a script. Like, okay, like, this is amazing. I'm just gonna do it, you know? And yeah, like, what? I wouldn't have felt that way about that particular audition if I hadn't just had done stand-up.
Yeah.
Or I maybe wouldn't understand character getting ready. I'm getting ready to do a show. Like the reading the play has been a different experience since I've worked on my writing more. You start to just like let the things fold into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really exciting. Yeah, because it's so annoying. Like, it's definitely a capitalism, American dream thing of being like, what is your goal? Okay,
Right.
now do the steps to get to that goal versus like, how do I have a constellation of goals and things that excite me, and how do they all interact and play together, and how can I create, and this is something you talk about all the time, but how can I create my own path for myself
Yeah.
that is different than I expected it to be.
But I think that's also why we're talking about just starting, right? Because that goal setting framework that we have been taught lives through, like, that's part of it too. I know, at least for myself, I can only speak for myself, like that is a huge roadblock for me, where it's like, well, if my goal is to, I don't know, write a pilot that I can then pitch for a TV show, right? Just then
Right.
that is this big, huge goal. And because the goal is this monumental thing, all of those small steps then become the really overwhelming hurdles, because you really want to accomplish this lofty thing. And just remembering and reminding yourself, like, let's dial this down to, this is fun because this is new, period.
Totally.
Right. Or like, I have this idea and that is exciting me and it feels good to think about it, period. Cool. Now what do I want to do with this cute, exciting idea? Knowing in the back of your brain, okay, eventually, hopefully, maybe one day, this will be the thing, and I'm going to quote unquote build towards that. But in the process, like, what is this small little step I can take to even just take this idea out of my brain?
What can I celebrate along the way as huge wins? Because I have to constantly pull myself back from, because I do have ambition, and that's something I have a complicated relationship with, being like, how do I love my ambition? How do I also not let it take over aspects of my life or make me feel bad about myself?
Amen.
And that's really tough. And I think part of it has to be, you have to be able to slow down and be like, that's a win. I did the thing. I did the win. Like, I finished a scene. That's like a win. Like, even just getting a freaking scene down.
I was going to even say that even feels like an overwhelming win. Like, I would be like, just finishing a page when you're blocked. Like,
yes. Or, doing, like, if you're like, hey, like, I'm going to try and do a month of structured writing, and even if nothing comes out of the end of that, that's like still a win if you were able to keep appointments with yourself or even show up a little bit. I mean, also on the other hand, like, my boyfriend says this all the time, and it's like really hard for me to wrap my head around, which is like, you can do nothing and you're still just as valuable as a human being.
correct.
Like, you can do literally nothing and your value does not add or decrease. Like, and I'm
also, like, arguably, doing nothing is still doing something, because you've made a choice to do the nothing. So in and of itself, it's an action.
Yes. But just the fact that, like, our value as people is innate, and nothing we are going to do is going to increase or decrease our value. Like, getting something or writing something or making something, like, you have to just do the things that are going to fill you up and bring you joy. And if making little goals for yourself, and like, Eric's like, sometimes I feel like you look at the world like a little bit of a video game, which is like, I want to, like, get the goal, like, get the flag, get the coin, like, go to the next one. And like, he does not, he like lives in, like, this is funny, I'm not a video game person really at all, but I'm using video game analogy.
Listen.
So there's like, the Mario version of a video game where it's like, okay, I'm gonna grab the thing, I'm gonna get the flag, I'm gonna go to the next level. And then there's like the open world type of video game where you're like dropped in somewhere and you kind of get to go wherever you want.
Right.
And I think that kind of, that appeals to Eric in a big way. For me, I'm like, I kind of like the little steps. I kind of like the little, like,
the structure
of it, and then it's about finding whatever that, like, joy or bliss is for you, and being like, that's not necessarily better. Like, we might have different kind of, like, ways we're setting up our lives or what we're liking to play around in. But yeah, I do like the little I do like being like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to make a short film. So like that's going to be a big goal of mine.
Yeah.
And then doing it feels really good when in whatever way it is. And even if it's not exactly what I wanted it to look like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay.
With the sticking of starting, you created an incredibly moving and more poignant than ever. I guess it's a short, right? Like a short.
Mhm.
At this point, what is it? Years ago now. Um,
Yeah, 2019, I think is when we shot it, and
yeah,
2020 is when we released it. Yeah.
yeah. I'd love to just talk to you a little bit about starting that piece,
Mhm.
how you knew to start or what you did to start. You can talk about the creation of it too, if that's something that speaks to you. And then I want to also leave time for the piece that you are currently in pre-production for, starting that piece, moving into that. So both of those under umbrellas of like starting as you're learning and going, obviously, but feel free to take time
Yes.
to talk about what they are.
Definitely, like, and this is such a fun phase of it because all this stuff I've been talking about writing can feel, well, you're either doing it like maybe with one other person or with yourself, and then you start moving into making it a reality, and like all of a sudden you have to build a team, and that is really fun. Like, and it's for me mostly people I love and that are my friends, and so you start building out more people to collaborate and make your idea better, and that's so exciting. Yeah, the first thing you asked about is a short called "This Is Not a Love Letter." That is a like experimental choreo poem, and I made that in collaboration with a couple of friends of mine who have a small production company called CNT Productions, who I went to school with, and they had writers' rooms every week for a long time and had done these two. They wanted to do a series of poetry and poetry films. There's two other films in that series that are amazing, Black Girl Poem and Poppy Runs. And they were like, would you want to write a poem? And knew that is something that I love to do. And so I was thinking about what I wanted to say. And This Is Not a Love Letter is a piece where I share a lot about an abortion I had in college. And I, at the time, hadn't really talked to anybody about it. I wrote a poem initially that was more general about kind of the strength. It was a little bit about abortion, reproductive health, but also just about strength and vulnerability. And I read it to my sister, and she was like, "This is so beautiful." And she was like, "I don't feel like," she's like, "It just feels kind of general. Like, I don't really know what you're talking about." And I was like, kind of mad. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I like wrote this whole poem." But that's kind of how she is, and I know she's always gonna be real with me. And so I went back and I was like, okay, let me just actually tell my specific story, even if it's really scary. And wrote the poem kind of detailing my experience more and then letting it grow out. And then my friends, Ariel, who directed it, and Daryl, who produced it, were able to just collaborate with me and be like, okay, what is this? I was like, this feels like I'm telling a story to friends. That feels really scary. Okay, so how can I bring in all of my friends to my apartment, and how can I just tell them the story, and can we get that on film? And then it was like, yeah, that's a cool idea. We can get their reactions in real time. Okay. And then Ariel, who's a great director, was like, what if we also kind of told different visual stories with different formations of people and hands and pomegranates and colors, and that was like so much of what she brought to the piece that I wouldn't have put in there. And we kind of filmed that in my apartment, and it was such a special experience. I did this poem, I told the story like 100 times, and by the end of it I was like exhausted, but I was also like, oh my gosh, when we share things that are kind of scary and people accept them and say they hear us, like, oh my God, what a gift like we can give to each other of just being able to listen to each other. And obviously, like, it's so fucked up with everything that's happening right now in terms of reproductive justice and reproductive access, and thinking about that video makes me happy, but also like makes me frustrated. And at the same time, I hope it can encourage people to just be like, hey, you can talk about it, and people will listen and they will accept that. And that's been a huge going. And since then, I've had so many people reach out to me and tell me about their experiences, and people in my life who I would have never known. And like, it's just far more common of an experience to have an abortion than is ever talked about. And I wish it wasn't as taboo as it is, or covered in shame as it is.
The piece is so gorgeous and unfortunately more relevant than probably when you made it. I feel like it's such an incredible gift that you've given to people. And I hope, not that you're trying to do this and you don't need my encouragement in any way, but I hope that it reaches more people during this time now, just because I do think that it's incredibly poignant and relevant and impactful. Clearly the experience, is layered and emotional, but you and your team did such an incredible job of showing the community part of it, of showing the support part of it, of showing the lack of isolation part, or the ability to find oneself and connect with others through it. And I would even argue like joy in it, that is so often, I think, not talked about. And it was just a beautiful commentary on a version of sisterhood, and age. You did such a gorgeous job of showing that. Yeah, I'll check it out. I don't know where one can check it out, so tell people. This is not a love letter, but
This is Not a Love Letter is on YouTube. Easy.
amazing.
Find it on YouTube. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so much joy. That was a huge thing we wanted to incorporate: dancing and joy. And like, we are told that these experiences can be so isolating and we're so alone in them. And like, what happens when we're like, let me just share it with everybody. And then there's so much joy and community, and carrying each other's burdens, and that creates the things we think we have to carry around just by ourselves that are so heavy. We can kind of disperse and have this communal sharing. And hey, this is really heavy for me, you can help me carry that, and then what can I help carry of yours, and how can we do that together? And
it was such a collaboration, like across all of it. It just really felt like
and we had people pick out like lines in the poem that were resonating to them, and we let them choose instead of like directing it. And then we would get them saying it, and then kind of that would match up with my voice speaking over it. And so in that way, we were able to kind of match up people's own personal different parts that they related to with it, which was cool.
And just doubling back, did you feel like part of the way you were able to get through creating this whole thing from inception to completion was because of the team that you had, as in like that helped guide you through the process of not knowing how to do this for the first time?
1,000%. I would never have been able to do it without, I guarantee you, everyone's got someone in their life who has made something cool. We all know. And like, usually if you're like, I want to also do something cool, then they will listen to you. I felt really lucky to have Daryl and Ariel and people at CNT that were like, we support you as an artist, and like, how do you want to make this? And if you don't want to tell the story, that's okay. And I always felt like there was room for that. And it was really, it was like really tough at first. And now I'm like, oh my God, that was incredible. And it was such a moving, like, it was such a powerful experience. Like, it was all in my apartment and in my bedroom. And like, I felt like for a few days, my apartment was just like filled with that energy. It was overwhelming. And it was pretty magic.
What about the one that you're working on now in terms of, because this is a bigger situation, arguably.
Is a bigger situation. Yeah, it's definitely a higher budget. So like, this is not a love letter for probably, like, for transparency, people trying to make their stuff. Like, we shot that for probably about $5,000, which was like money that CNT had raised and put in through Kickstarters and stuff like that to fund a lot of their different projects. And that, involved equipment and hiring a cinematographer. And like, we didn't have to pay for location. And these were my friends who had agreed to be in this video and volunteer their time for that, which I was so grateful for. And, so it was, that was the budget for that. This budget is higher. And it's a lot more involved. It's a narrative short. And so what we are doing basically is making a short that exists on its own, but also could serve as a proof of concept, which means that I had written this feature and my friend wanted to direct it. And then she hasn't directed much before and I haven't done as much film work. And so we're like, okay, how can we show people that we can do this to invest in it? Let's make a short. We can self-fund the short and then use that to show to people and be like, do you want to see more of this short? We have a whole feature ready to go.
Right.
But also for it to exist as a short on its own. I mean, there's so many incredible films that have done this, like Whiplash started as a short. Obvious Child started as a short. A film that just came out, Shiva Baby, that started as a short. Like all of these movies that started as shorts, people were like, yes, let's make that. And so that's kind of where we started with this. But now, like, I mean, the group of people that we've assembled, Daryl, who's producing it, who also produced This Is Not a Love Letter, my friend Victoria, who's directing, like people I went to school with, and then also everybody bringing in people they've met along the way that they've been like another producer, a great friend of mine, Clea DeCrane, who I met in Santa Cruz doing Shakespeare, like, and this woman coming on to do script supervising that Victoria met on a job she did. Like, we're kind of all then bringing in these other people, combining them and being like, whoa, we've got a super crazy team.
Yeah.
Which is so fun. And it's been a lot more involved. It's like the pre-production of it, like in terms of you've got to get permits and production insurance and secure locations and all of this stuff. And we're shooting it in Portland.
How did you know to do all these things? Again, going back to like the starting part of
For
things.
sure. I didn't. So you find friends and you say, hey, I'm going to raise enough money so I can pay you and you can feel like this is worth your time. Clay and Daryl both started small production companies and have produced short films. And I mean, Station 26 Productions, CNT Productions, you can hire these small production companies to, walk you through this process, and they're amazing and so worth the, being able to pay them to do this stuff. And then you learn that along the way. If you're like, I also want to co-produce, so let me learn from you here. And then I'll pick up production skills, whether that's how to build a schedule or how to get, how to location scout or get permits. Like, you just everyone's constantly learning from each other and kind of figuring it out. The internet, Google, hugely helpful, obviously, always. I work as a production assistant for a couple different film companies and a theater company, and I've learned a lot that way. And so you're just kind of picking it up, and there are so many producers out there that I didn't really know exactly what a producer did. I feel like when I first started this, and I'm like, a producer makes it happen. A producer will help you figure out just the contracts. This is a SAG, like micro budget film. And so there's certain things you have to do with that. And people are good at it, just in the way that you're good at creating, you're good at being an artist. Like, bring on a really good producer. And there are a ton of indie producers out there, whether that's for film or TV. And I have two great recommendations, and then there's so many more out there. And you don't have to do it by yourself, because it can definitely feel like, oh my God, I have no idea where to start. I can't produce a movie.
That's why you hire people who do.
Yeah, and you hire people who you really admire. And like Clay and Daryl, who are the producers on this, are both incredible writers and incredible actors, and also super multi-hyphenates. Like, so I am like, okay, great. Like, let me do this. And then when you're working on a project, how can I help?
Exactly.
So you start being able to support each other's work and create a whole community of people who are making things. And right now I'm super interested in film and TV and that kind of medium. I also have a lot of love for theater, but again, it's like, that's not exactly where my my enjoyment of hustle is right
Yeah.
now, is in
Yeah.
theater. Yeah, so yeah, you gotta it's why I love doing this, because you start from the writing, which we've talked so much about.
Mhm.
That can give you so much individual fulfillment and stretch your brain and challenge you, but then you come together, and then when you're making a little movie or something, you might be like, whoa, like I'm kind of figuring out, being on this project, that I would really like to be a producer, or that I would really like to, work in art direction, or whatever.
Right.
And then you learn more about that, and then you can go down that path for a little while if you
Exactly.
want.
Yeah.
So that's really fun.
I'm so excited for this short because I feel like I've heard about it, and I feel like you're pouring your heart into it, and I have no doubt with the team that you've assembled, it's going to be freaking awesome. And so I cannot wait to hear and see and support when it comes on down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so grateful too that you shared so many resources with our listeners about
Yes.
places to start and things to look at, and just expanding the way in which we in our own little bubbles don't feel so alone in doing all of it, right? That there are other people who are figuring it out and exploring um, before you, and that we can share these things with one another and don't have to live in a
Absolutely.
silo.
The other thing I would say too, and this goes like, you can, in terms of like one other resource I don't think I mentioned, is like you can find almost any script you love online. So, I did this thing for a while early pandemic where you watch a movie, read the script. So we did that with a bunch of like, I love Greta Gerwig and Mike Mills, Jenny Slate, like
Mhm.
uh just your favorite movies, see how they look on the page. That's a huge thing. That's really helpful. And so many scripts are just available with the Google,
Yeah.
and inspiring. And so reading scripts, and then I'm like a huge book nerd in terms of fiction and poetry. Like, fill yourself up with those things too, and that's always going to feed your writing.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, for anybody who wants to further the discussion, work with you, follow what you're up to, what are some of the best ways for people to reach out, to contact you within your own boundaries?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram. It's iPask. Um, or my website, which is isabelpask.com. And I love talking about this stuff. Yeah, I'm always super happy to engage in conversations. Like, so many people have helped me. So many people will continue to help me. I would love to, any small piece of, help that I can give somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, definitely always down to talk about making stuff, or just surviving as an artist in the city, which I know you also do so much work on. I think is amazing. Of just, yeah, how do we be artists and also pay our rent, and
Yeah.
do the things that keep us living and like
Yeah.
having a higher quality of life, and being able to support our minds and hearts and bodies. So that's also such a huge aspect of it, which you cover all the time.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you. And thank you for this conversation, and more soon.
Thank you. It was so fun. I loved it.